If you are tired of wasting your time for copying and pasting data from one system to another, then this video is for you. Today, I want to talk with you about the #1 killer of office productivity and value creation: media breaks. How often do you ask yourself, what better things could I do with my time instead of copying and pasting data from one system to the other? I could talk with a customer. I could improve a business process. I could invent a new Mars rocket. Well, Elon is already doing that. But seriously, how often do you spend time on repetitive tasks because of lack of data integration? But if this is the case, why are not all systems connected with each other in your business? Why is data exchange not happening automatically in the background? Well, in the past, it was complicated and costly. And my emphasis is on in the past, because today we have Power Automate. And Power Automate is the perfect tool for data integration. For Power Automate exist more than 300 connectors to transfer data from one system to the other. And if there's no connector for your system, well, you can create your own custom connector via web APIs and transfer the data. In this video, I will give you an example how you can use Microsoft Forms for efficient data entry and Power Automate to transfer automatically the survey results to your business app. Let's get started. Oh, before I forget, this is part 5 of the video series on how you increase your sales with 3 mouse clicks. We are still working on the business model where car dealers make pictures of the old car, describe the damage and sends the information to professional car recycling companies, like insurances are doing for crash damaged cars. The recycler responds with an offer to buy the car, and the dealer then sells the car to a highest bidder and takes the money as a down payment for the new car. The objective is to make this with minimal manual intervention. So to develop a digital solution that is doing all the heavy lifting. And for that we developed in the previous video a number of tables and apps, so that the car dealer only has to make a few clicks, like select the car, click on offer car to car recycler for sale, to automatically contact the car recycling companies within Power Automate flow. And the Power Automate flow looks like this. We have a number of actions, and then if everything works out, it collects the data of the car and generates an email which will be sent to the car recycler automatically. The email contains the last name of the car recycler and then the information about the car, make, model, production year, mileage, engine type, and so on. If you want to know how the flow is built in detail, I recommend you the last video of this video series. I will put you the link down in the description. In this video I will show you an easy way how the car recycler can respond to your offer, and that you get the information in a way that you can process them automatically. And in this use case, we want to use tools that you already have, where you don't need an additional product or have to pay for any additional licenses. And for this reason, we take Microsoft Forms. We create a new form, and in the form we type in price quote for damaged cars, then have a text which refers question, and we ask for the email address. In the second question, we ask for the vehicle identification number, because we need that to assign the price quote that the car recycler gives to the car we want to sell. In the third question, we ask for the price quote, and these are all the questions we need: email address, vehicle ID and price quote. And so we look in the preview how this form looks like. We have the headline, we have the email address, vehicle ID, and we have the price quote for a car. That are all the information we need from the car recycler. Now we want to modify some settings. So we go to settings, only persons in Canyon Friends can use it. This is not what we want. We want that everybody can use it. So we click here, because we send it to the car recyclers which are not part of my Microsoft 365 organization. As next, I would like to have the URL of the form, and I would like to have it pre-filled, that the car recycler doesn't have to fill everything. So I go on get pre-filled link, and here I see the form again and can type in the parameters, which is in this case the email address I want to have it pre-filled with. And same goes for the vehicle ID. And here we have the vehicle ID in the app, so we say V003, and for price quote we leave these empty. And then we copy and paste the link. And when we look at the link, we see the response page ASPX, and then we have a question mark, and from that we see the parameters. And the parameter starts with an ID, and then the next parameter is with the ampersand r something equal Paul.Canon %40 schreib mir .jetzt, and the %40 is the symbol for the @ sign, which I cannot put in the URL otherwise. And then we have the ampersand again and another ID, and then we have the V003. So if the car recycler gets the link, clicks on it, I will do this here in a browser tab, he gets the form pre-filled with the email address and the car ID, and that's exactly what we want. So now we want to incorporate the link of the form into the email that we send to the car recycler. So give you a price quote here, and we paste the link. And this might not be the nicest way, and the give you a price quote here went to the bottom, so we have to cut it out and put it to the top again and make it bold. And what we see here, we have the V003. This is hard-coded, but we want to have it dynamically assigned. So we go into our list of previous actions, and we see the vehicle ID here. So now we have dynamic vehicle IDs. Same goes for the email address, and I want to have it as dynamic value as well. And with the email of the car recycler in the list rows actions. If you want to see how we got this, I recommend you to watch the previous video of the series. And we have one challenge here, because we can use the email directly, because in the email address from the list rows we get the @ sign, but we don't want to have that. We need the %40. So we use the replace function, replace text, and for that we use the original email from our dynamic content. And then we replace the text, the @ sign, and replace it with the %40. And now we also have our email address replaced. Then we save the flow and can test it. Test flow, I go automatically with recent events. We tested the flow successfully before, so all these things run through. Then we get the data of the attachment with the pictures, and after they went through, the flow generates the emails, and once they are generated, we can go to Outlook and see how they look like. I here go to the sent objects, and I can see already the sent emails that have been sent through the flow. I see the attachment, I see the car description, this is nothing new. And if I scroll down, I see the form. And I copy the form, paste it into the browser to see what I get. I get Paul.Canon as email address pre-filled and vehicle ID 002. And if I go to the other email, I see Peter Bim and ID 002. So far so good. What is not so nice is that this is not a hyperlink yet. So we have to fix that. So we go back to edit, and here I copy the hyperlink into the clipboard, and then I paste it into the word click, because this is where the car recycler should click to get to the form. And what I see here, it resolves already my vehicle identification variable. And if I go to the left, I see the email address with the function, and we are good to go. I have to make a confession. You see here there's a variable, and I put in this variable in between the recording to avoid another loop retrieving the email address. So now that we have the hyperlink in the click, we can delete the hyperlink and test the flow. The flow runs through and generates the emails, and while it's generating the email, I can take a look. We here see already the new email, and it has the click with the hyperlink, and I click on it and I see Susan Burke. This is the recipient of the email, and I see Peter Bim and all the other car recycler that I have in my database. So we can leave the flow since everything is working fine and go into my form for damaged cars, Peter Bim. And Peter Bim is giving a price quote 10,000. So he sent his reply. To have more price quotes, we also take Susan Burke, 11,000. And now we can look into the answers. And we see we have 3 answers from Paul Cannon, Susan Burke, Peter Bim. And we see the vehicle IDs they gave their price quote for, and we see the price quotes of them for the third question. The answers are in forms. And yes, I can open them with the Excel, like this. I download a copy of the Excel file, but they are still kind of boxed into the app. But what I really want is that they become incorporated into my Power App, that I can process the data from there. And that is exactly what I will show you in the next video. In the last video we created a form for the car recycler that they can give their price quote in an easy way. Now we have the challenge that the responses of the car recycler are captured in the Microsoft Forms data space and not in our Power App. What we want is to transfer the responses from the car recycler into our Power App, and to be more precise, into the vehicle price quotes table. And here we see we have a price quote, we have a ID, we have a quote accepted, yes, not. But if I look more closely, I see there are some columns missing. In example, the column for vehicle ID. So we have to create that. We go back to the tables in Power Apps, look for vehicle, price quotes, columns, and here we have to add the additional column. First we take a look what we have: price quote, quote accepted, quote ID, description ID. And if you look here, we see the number of more columns. In example, car repair shop. Let's see what columns else we have. Maybe we already have the vehicle ID column. No, it doesn't look like it. So we have to create this new column. Vehicle ID. It's a lookup to our vehicle description table. So we search for the table, vehicle description, perfect. And then car repair shop, we need this as well. And if we look at it, it's a lookup, that is good, but it links to the account table. But we want to use the email, and the email is in the contacts table. So we cannot use this column for our assignment. And the simplest way is to create another column, which we call car repair shop email. And this will be linked to the contact table. So we have this column, everything else looks good, and we now can start to work on getting the responses into our Power App. To do so, we need a new Power Automate flow, and here I have a number of options. I can search for forms and look into templates that Power Automate provides, like record forms and so on. But in our case, I go directly and create from blank. And I call it write car quotes to Dataverse. And the trigger we need is when a new response is submitted. And the trigger is right up front. This is why I created the flow from scratch, because I know that I can get the trigger immediately without using a template. So we create the flow, and here I have to customize the trigger and have to select the price quote for damaged cars forms. I take the one with a star because I created several of them by now. And before we can get to the data, we need another action. And this is the forms get response details. So to fill this action, I have to fill the form, price quote for damaged cars, and then I have to fill in the response ID. And this is the one from the trigger. And so I go to when a response is submitted, response ID, and this is exactly what I did. So now I have the data of the response, and I can start to process it. To make it easier in the data processing and to write the data into the table, I create a number of variables. So I go to initialize variable, and my first variable is price quote. And to make it easier, I always copy the name of the variable into the action title. And my price quote is a float because I have decimal values. And I see here for decimal values, I only get the response ID and not the price quote, which I actually want. This is because in the form, we created the question as a text, because we did not have an option to create it as an integer value or as a float. So I have to improvise a little. To improvise, I look into the Power Automate functions, and there's a function called float. And the float converts a string into a float variable, obviously. And for string variables, we can use our price quote, which we see here, price quote. Yeah, so we have the price quote variable. Now we need additional variable. We copy the action to the clipboard and paste the again. So we have our next variable. And what we need now is the variable repair shop email, which is a string variable, and it's the responder's email. Again, we paste it all in the top that we have in the action the name of the variable, and we go from there. Then we need another variable which is called vehicle ID, and this is a string variable, and I leave it empty for now because what we want is not the vehicle ID we have in the vehicle description, but we want an internal ID that I can filter, a unique identifier. But we get to this in a moment. So I go back to my flow, and now I create a new action, and the action is to retrieve the unique identifier of the vehicle description ID. So I take the action list rows, and here I take the vehicle description. Here I have a number of parameters, and what I want to is filter rows for the vehicle description ID. And to filter the vehicle ID, I have to take the technical name of the column vehicle ID, which is CR07C underscore vehicle ID. And since this is a OData notation, I need the equal, and then I need have to type in the vehicle ID. The vehicle ID I get from the response of my forms. So I have vehicle ID. So with the list rows filter, I get my vehicle technical name or my unique identifier for the vehicle ID. And now I want to assign it to the variable that I already created. So I say set variable. I select the vehicle ID, and then I take the OData ID. And here we see, since I created that, I have a for each loop, because list rows could theoretically generate more than one responses or more than one results. And therefore, Power Automate generates automatically a for each loop around my set variable, and for each loop run, it updates the set variable. And in the end, I would have the value of the last data record. But for me, this is fine because I know I will only retrieve one record from the list row action. As a next step, we need to get the unique identifier for the contact who gave the price quote. So here we see Peter Bim, which is a lookup field to contacts, and we need the unique identifier. So that's the next activity. So for that, we type in Dataverse list rows, and here we choose the contact table because we want to get the ID. Then we have the filter statement again. And the interesting part here is email address 1, which is the correspondent email address in the table, has no prefix because it's a system table created from Microsoft and not from a third-party publisher like me or anyone else. So we don't have a prefix here. Very interesting. And then I need the OData equal statement, EQ, and then I take the email address, which I got from my form response. And now I want to put the result from the list rows into my variable. So I go to set variable and select the repair shop email, and then I want to have the unique identifier of contacts. And this is a bit misleading because the variable repair shop email, the email address, but it's the unique identifier of contacts, which is called contact. Yeah, unique identifier of the contact table. So I have this here, and I also get the loop. Then I need the vehicle ID, and the vehicle ID I go under list rows, and here I have the vehicle description, which is the unique identifier of the vehicle ID. Now we have all the data we need for the Dataverse table. So we add an action, look for Dataverse actions, and then add a new row as new action. Then we have to look for the table where we want to add the new record, vehicle price quotes. And now I see all the columns where I can put my values in. And the first I see here is car repair shop making quote in brackets contacts. So that means I have to put a link to the contacts table in here. Therefore, we cannot only paste in the Curry Share Shop email, but have to convert it into the unique identifier of that. To do so, we need the name of the table, but not the display name. We need the technical name. And for that, we go back into Dataverse, Tables, Contacts, and look under Tools and say copy set name. And then we see Contacts. And we put it in brackets, and now the link will be converted. Comments was a column I put in here. At the moment we don't have any currency. This is similar. We have it as a lookup field, so I cannot type in euro or dollar, but I have to look up in the currency table the value for currency. So we go back to Dataverse again, type in currency and look for currency table. I look at the technical name, which I need for my conversion, and here it is interesting. It's a technical name is transaction currencies, so nothing I would have guessed. It's not currencies like we could assume before. It's a complete different name, and this is why it's always important to look up in the Dataverse what the technical name is under copy set name. And now we need the general unique identifier for the currency. In this example, we are using euros, so we look into the table for the GUID. So I look for additional fields, and then we have here under transaction currency, we have the unique identifier, and this is the one we need. I copied and pasted already into the notepad, and so we paste it in here, close the bracket, and then we have our conversion from euros for the table. Import sequence not relevant, owner not relevant, price quote accepted, we say no because it's still new, and then sales is still active, yes. Status reason, that's a kind of technical status, we leave this as active, and now we see the vehicle price quote, and this is what we are interested in, so we take this from our variable we created earlier. Now we go into vehicle ID, and here we can see this is a lookup column again. So what we need is the technical name of the table, vehicle description. So we go to vehicle description, tools, copy same. And what is interesting to see here is that we have the CR07C prefix again, because this is a user generated table. And then I take my vehicle ID from earlier, put it into brackets, and I'm done. Now we want to save the flow, always important. I saved the flow, and now we are testing it. The flow is waiting for a new response of a form. And to generate a form response, we go to the email, click on a form, and here I see Susan Burke pre-filled, vehicle ID is pre-filled, and the price code I give is 6000, so I answer it, and now the flow runs. But it runs into mistake. This always happens, nothing is perfect from the first time. So we log in what the problem is, and the problem where the missing quotation marks are already filled them in. So the flow should run now, so I save and click test. And the beauty of Power Automate is I don't have to fill out the form again. I can say automatically test flow with the previous used trigger, the one we just added. And now the flow runs through. The list row statement is successful. I have the quotation marks here. So this is marked as string, and Power Automate can process it. Then I get the variables values right. The second list row works fine. And I also get the conversion of the unique identifier, add a row, which was also successful. And if you look into the app, click refresh, and we see the entry of Susan Burke here. And if we go into it, say edit, we see vehicle ID is V002, Susan Burke. I can click on her, and then I see more contact data, or I even can click her, that I go to the contact form. Okay, I see here she's a car transport company, but for the example doesn't matter. The price quote accepted is no, Sales still active is yes. These are the pre-filled values we gave to the flow, and we see everything is working fine. But me as a car salesperson, I have a lot of things to do. So I will not always look at the app for new entries. So what we now need is a notification for the car salesman. And we don't write emails, but we use Teams since it is the collaboration hub. So we type Teams into our connector action and see what kind of actions we can find that fit best. If you look on see more, you see a lot of actions. Post a choice of options, post adaptive card, post card in a chat or channel, post message in a chat or channel. And that's exactly what we want. Post a message in a chat or channel. And we want to post it into a channel. We assume that there is a Teams for the sales people and that there is a certain channel for it. So this is the channel I want to paste in. In our example, we paste into the M365 test team, and there's only one channel which is called General. And now we want to write the message. For that I prepared a text. Hello everyone, the vehicle ID, and here I need the vehicle ID, not the technical one, but the one you can read, like the V002. And this is what I get from my form response. Has received price quote from, and here I want to have a nice name. And we have the name from the list row statement where we go through the contact list. And a good name to display is the full name. So we paste this in here. Full name. And what we see here, since the list row could have multiple entries, our automate puts a for each loop on around the team message. Since I'm very sure I only have one result, I'm fine with this. Otherwise we should have put the full name into a variable before, like we did on other occasions. So in the amount of is the next what we want to paste in, and here we take the price quote, we put, in this case we take the variable, then it's a euro. And what I here want is, of course, I want the link to my app. And if I look into my app, I see the URL, and I see I have an entity record, I have vehicle description quote, I have an ID. And this is the ID for the record. So I take all and copy it, paste it into my Power Automate flow in the Teams message, and replace the ID with the ID I get. And the add row action has as return value the technical ID for the unique identifier for the entity instance, and we take that. So we say save test, and that I don't get too many Susan Berg records, I go ahead and delete these. And what I also want to have is the order create the newest one on top, then I can find it easier. Say test, the flow runs through, very good. So let's see on Teams what I see. I go to my team, M365 test team, channel general, and here I see my message. Vehicle ID 002 has received a price quote from Susan Berg in the amount of 6,000 euro. Here is the link to the price quote. Okay, this would be nice if there would be a hyperlink, but first I'm interested if the link works at all. So I paste it in here and get directly to my link. Susan Berg, vehicle 002, 6,000. So this works fine. So the next step is to make this more user-friendly and take this link and put it into a hyperlink. Save it, then we can test it again. This time I say manually because I want to get a new record, and I have a number of forms in my email. So this time we take Paul Cannon, and I have the data for Paul Cannon, vehicle ID 001, 44,000, flow runs through. I get the new T message, and I see here there is a price quote hyperlink. I click on it and get to the data record in my app from Paul Cannon. Okay, let's reimagine the situation. The car salesperson gets a message from his customer that he wants to sell the car because the car has too much oil consumption. So the only thing he has to do is select the car, click on flow and select flow and click on run. That is everything the employee has to do. Now the employee can wait for the price quotes to come in and deal with other tasks. To illustrate what happened is that we sent emails to the car recycling shops, and in this case like 4 or 5, and then the car recycler can click on the link in the email, can fill out the form, and the form gets processed into the Power App, and the sales employee receives Microsoft Teams message that a new price code has arrived and that he can contact his customer. We finally finished the minimum viable product of our car dealer solution. The car dealer can administrate the car. The price quote, it gets automatically stored in our business app, and the sales team of the car dealer gets a notification in Teams that the new price quote has arrived and that he can contact the customer. In the next videos we will start with a new topic, but from time to time I will update or extend this video series with improving the MVP and make it a complete business solution that everybody wants to like to use. So thank you for watching and see you in the next video. Bye bye.